Because I definitely don't have enough other unfinished projects already, I figure I'll start on another one. The impetus for this project is that my wife got a job with a 6-mile commute. It's an ideal task for one of our mopeds, but let's be honest, these old two-strokes are about as unreliable as my video posting schedule. At one point, this moped was a 1980 Puch Maxi, but I put it together out of a collection of random parts that were never really meant to go together. It was fun, but like most of my mopeds, I never got it working exactly the way I wanted. In a way, this new project is bringing things full circle. I got into machining so that I could make parts for mopeds, and specifically for this one. I got interested in mopeds because I thought converting one to electric would be a good dry run for someday doing an EV conversion on a car. Now that I'm in the middle of building an electric Jeep, well, it seems like I might as well finally get around to building that electric moped. And that way my wife won't show up to work smelling like a leaf blower. This thing's got a really crappy center stand on it that's not quite tall enough. If I can drop this back wheel off, it should sit on it okay and stand up on its own. There's always got to be that one thing that you forget to disconnect. Since I'm probably going to be welding and grinding on this thing at some point, I'm going to go ahead and fill the tank with water now while I'm thinking of it. This seat was salvaged and modified from an electric razor scooter. It was never very comfortable, so it's gone. Well, I don't need the temperature gauge anymore. And these bars were always too low to ever really be comfortable. Looks like I'm going to have to redo all my cables and wiring too. We'll get a new used swing arm on there. Since I'm going back to a stock swing arm, I also need to go back to stock length shocks. I got the biggest sprocket available from Treatland. Because all of the gear reduction is going to be in the chain, it's going to end up with a pretty ridiculous gear ratio. I had 2 wheels to pick from here. This one had bad bearings in it, but it was loose bearings. The other one already had sealed bearings in it, so I took the axle from that. It's a little bit bigger than the one that goes with the loose bearings, but I need a few more threads on there. I feel like I'm going to strip something if I just keep turning against that nut. That die was not cooperating very well, so I broke down and did what I should have done in the first place and single pointed it. So that giant sprocket is hitting this stud. The brake plate slots onto here, keeps the brake plate from rotating. Once the wheel's on, it'll sit back far enough it won't interfere, but there's not really enough room to get it on. I got a bolt in there for now for that brake plate. It's still really close. I might need to swap for something a little lower profile, but that'll work for now. Let's get the seat on here next. Yeah, we'll slow that down a bit. To power this thing, I got one of these import brushless DC motor kits. This one's from Vevor. It was on clearance for like 97 bucks. It's 1800 watt. Next piece of the puzzle is going to be, well, these are the sprockets that came with it. And that's a Moped sprocket. I think this is from a Minarelli V1. It's a 9-tooth sprocket. You can see it's a little beefier, and so there are actually some wrench flats here that are the same size as this. So I think what I can do is now we just have to do something about that. As usual with stainless, I'm using some Anchor Lube on this. Gotta give them a shout out because they've got a great product, and they help support me doing projects like this. Because of the steps on the shaft, I had to drill and ream different diameters to different depths.
I'm losing motivation to do anything.
Productive, you can dig a channel where this is, so that water doesn't. I don't know what the magnet is. Oh.
This gets a left-hand thread tapped in it, which of course feels entirely unnatural. So I've got this thing temporarily wired up to a 48 volt power supply. Only problem is, that's spinning backwards. There is a provision for a reverse on the controller, so we can jumper that. Now the motor spins the right direction, but that's as fast as it goes. In order to get this thing spinning the direction I need to swap 2 of the phase wires and 2 of the Hall effect wires. You would think if you swap the blue and green here, you swap the blue and green here, but if you look at the directions in very small print, it tells you that's not the case. It tells you which ones to swap. So I swapped the blue and green phase wires here. On the Hall effect sensor, I need to swap blue and yellow. I don't know how well you can show this, but there's a little tab down in there that will release that pin. And somehow I lost the footage of the motor running in the correct direction, so I'll just play the original clip backwards. I think I want to reuse these plates. These holes are in the right spot for mounting on the frame, and I can just cut it off here. I had slots here so I could adjust the tension on the belt before, but since I can tension it with the rear wheel now, I don't really need those. So I think what I want to do is make up... I made 3 of these spacers, which should be obvious because there's 3 of them sitting here. Do I really need to say these things? I want to weld these spacers in place, but I need to make sure that they're going to line up with the holes in the frame. The first one doesn't matter where it goes. I'm going to start with this one since it's going to be the hardest one to tack in place while it's on the frame. Kind of a little welding tip: if you're worried about your welds being too good, just forget to turn the gas on. So I know that I want the sprocket for the motor to sit more or less in line from the axle to the pivot of the swing arm, which is also where the pedal crank is. So it should sit somewhere in here. Let's pull this off. chain's hitting this shock. I think the next thing to do is a little bench test of it. Well, I think this thing's going to be pretty darn fun, but for right now I'm out of time and out of parts to put on it. I'm going to go order some more parts, and next time I'm going to try to figure out how to reconfigure this industrial robot battery and fit it on there. So if you want to see that, don't run off.